Did you know Pete Townshend of The Who predicted the internet? Eerily, a single penned by Pete Townshend, became a modest non-album single hit for The Who in 1972. The song stands out for its dystopian lyrics, which envision a powerful futuristic network reminiscent of the modern internet. Travelling twice as fast as on any freeway, every single dream is wrapped up in the scheme. They all get carried on the relay. While the concept of computer networks wasn't entirely new by 1972, Pete did envision how these networks might impact our personal lives. The song was originally part of a larger, ambitious project called Lifehouse, a rock opera Townshend conceived as a follow-up to The Who's 1969 album Tommy. Townshend described Lifehouse as a sort of futuristic fantasy, a bit of science fiction. Set about 20 years into the future, the story unfolds in a world where people are confined to their homes and wear experience suits, through which the government feeds them entertainment programs. These suits are connected to a universal grid, a combination of the internet, gas pipelines, and cable TV wiring, controlled by a domineering media conglomerate who wields more power than the government itself. Now, Jimi Hendrix is widely regarded as one of the greatest guitarists of the rock era, and arguably one of the best musicians in the history of recorded music. And in 1967, Hendrix wrote 2 songs from the perspective of an extraterrestrial being visiting Earth, as you do. The more famous of these is Third Stone from the Sun. The second song, Up From the Skies, features on the album Axis Bold as Love. In Up From the Skies, Hendrix imagines himself as an eternal alien returning to Earth after a long absence, having last visited during the Ice Age. Have a look at the lyrics. I have lived here before, in days of ice. And of course, this is why I'm so concerned. And I come back to find the stars misplaced, and the smell of a world that has burned. The smell of a world that has burned. Yeah, well, maybe it's just a change of climate. Now, by 1967, scientists had begun to understand that human activity, particularly burning fossil fuels, was having an impact on the climate, though the full extent of this was no way clear at that time, and public awareness was minimal. Hendrix, however, seemed to know. Now, let's talk about Radiohead. Sometimes I do think that Radiohead were literally sent from the future to save indie rock. Here are 5 of their songs that predicted the future. Pop is Dead, their non-album single released in 1993, was an early example of Radiohead's prophetic visions. The song satirizes the superficiality and commercialization of pop music, predicting the rise of formulaic, mass-produced pop that dominates the airwaves today. And of course, pop music has become increasingly standardized. It's all algorithms and focus groups determining the next big hit. So Radiohead's critique has proven quite accurate. In No Surprises, from their seminal album OK Computer, the band paints a bleak picture of suburban life, foreseeing the rise of sprawling, cookie-cutter suburbs with a sense of numbness and disillusionment. And from the same album, appearing about halfway through, their weird half-song thing, Fitter Happier, is also a bit freaky. It features a computerized voice that sardonically delivers a list of guidelines and expectations for living in this new world. Fitter, happier, more productive, comfortable, not drinking too much, regular exercise at the gym. It's sort of reminiscent of smartwatches or health trackers, isn't it? In fact, I think I'm gonna take that off. The song speaks of a worryingly behaved population. And remarkably, as BBC News reported in June 2016, for today's late adolescents and 20-somethings, hedonism has given way to hard work wherever you look. Britain's young people are breaking records for good behaviour and social restraint. Palo Alto, a B-side from the OK Computer era, foresaw the rise of Silicon Valley as a global tech hub, and the consequenting crisis of the noughties and tens. As documented in the news, the suicide rate, especially in the teenage demographic, skyrocketed in the area. The song captures the alienation and disconnection from living in a world increasingly dominated by technology, where human connections are often overshadowed by digital interactions. Lyrically, the song is about living in a futuristic and advanced city like Palo Alto, and being overwhelmed. In a city of the future, it is difficult to find a space. I'm too busy to see you, you're too busy to wait. I'm okay, how are you? Thanks for asking, thanks for asking. And finally, Pyramid Song from Amnesiac sort of predicted rising sea levels, a result of climate change. The song's lyrics, which describe an underwater world, evoke a sense of inevitability and loss, mirroring the real-world fears of a future shaped by environmental catastrophe. There's a really great 2017 article from Pitchfork which basically explains how OK Computer predicted the future. It's well worth a read, I'll leave a link to it below in the description. In the article, Stuart Berman argues that each song on the album offers a vivid premonition of modern life, where consumerism, technological dependence, social disconnection, and paranoia have culminated in a reality that feels eerily close to what Radiohead envisioned decades ago. Moving away from Radiohead then, John Lennon seemed to have an uncanny premonition of his own tragic fate, mentioning death by gunshot in both interviews and his music. In the opening lines of Come Together, Lennon whispers, "Shoot me." Similarly, the song Happiness is a Warm Gun explores themes related to firearms, further hinting at an unsettling awareness of his mortality. Not to mention his obsession with death in an album titled Revolver. As early as 1965, Lennon reportedly told a journalist, "We'll either go in a plane crash or be popped off by some loony." On his final solo album, Lennon was working on a song called Borrowed Time, which he left unfinished at the time of his death. The title itself suggests a man conscious of the fleeting nature of life. Spooky. Now, when computers began to dominate in the 1980s, the entire music landscape was poised for a dramatic transformation. Something many artists before this wouldn't have predicted. Kate Bush, however, was ahead of her time in recognizing the potential and the dangers of technology. Her song Deeper Understanding predicts the future in which people find themselves increasingly entangled with their devices. Now, Kate Bush, of course, is known for her elaborate theatrical approach to music, but she took a very different approach with this song. Deeper Understanding is almost chillingly detached, as it narrates the story of a man who becomes emotionally attached to his computer. In the modern day, it now feels unsettlingly close to the reality many people face if they aren't careful with their screen time. Its lyrics speak of a reliance on computers and technology, perhaps even a glimpse into AI assistance. Take a look at the lyrics. Are you lonely? Are you lost? This voice console is a must. And later, hello, hello. Love and deeper understanding. I turn to my computer like a friend. Hello, hello. While most musicians of the time viewed computers simply as tools for creating music, Bush recognized early on, in the late 1980s, that having so much access to technology could be a double-edged sword. It's one thing to use a computer productively, but Bush warned of the dangers of letting it consume you, leading to a world where human interaction could become an afterthought. And now for a classic one. When MTV launched, it completely reshaped the landscape of how bands reached their audiences. Traditionally, artists relied on touring as their primary source of income, but with the advent of MTV, a 3-minute video could instantly capture the attention of teenagers across the globe. And when the channel kicked off with the Buggles' Video Killed the Radio Star, it was more than just a catchy tune. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, don't get me wrong, loads of videos from MTV's early days have flopped and have faded into obscurity, but somehow Video Killed the Radio Star survived and still remains relevant. The song's message about radio being eclipsed by television was far more accurate than most realized at the time. Artists like David Bowie seamlessly adapted to the MTV era, with their visual flair perfect for TV. However, for bands and artists who hadn't built their reputation on strong visual identity, MTV marked either the end of their career or the start of a very challenging journey. But interestingly, the opening lyrics reflect on the past rather than the future. I heard you on the wireless back in '52, lying awake intent at turning in on you. So actually, the song talks about the rise of television in the 1950s and its impact on radio, rather than music videos in the 1970s. Nonetheless, Trevor Horn would have been well aware of the parallels between these technological shifts. And of course, music videos have found a new home here on YouTube, and radio continues to thrive, sort of. So in the end, video didn't kill the radio star. Finally, few artists would have the courage to turn their final days into an artistic statement. But David Bowie was not like most people. For Bowie, music was an inseparable part of his identity, and with his final album Black Star, he gave us a poignant farewell. culminating in one of the most haunting tracks of his career. Lazarus was written and recorded while Bowie was fully aware that his life was nearing its end, and the song's somber tone is a testament to this knowledge. His weary voice singing about looking up and seeing himself in heaven. The line "everybody knows me now" took on a chilling new meaning just 2 days after the album's release, as the entire world paused to mourn and remember him, with every news outlet covering his passing. Though much of Black Star could be seen as Bowie's final artistic statement, Lazarus stands out as the most powerful goodbye. And there are actually loads of details in Lazarus, both the song and the music video, that sort of hint of Bowie's demise. And actually, I made an entire video about Lazarus and how it was David Bowie's final goodbye to the world. You can click over here to watch that video next.